And hello, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. Thanks so much for streaming with us here on this Friday. Actor Alec Baldwin in tears after firing a prop gun on his movie set, killing his cinematographer. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, other headlines, including 9 House Republicans breaking ranks, joining all Democrats in voting to hold former Trump advisor Steve Bannon in contempt for defying that subpoena by Select Committee investigators looking into the deadly Capitol insurrection. Now we await a decision by the Department of Justice, possibly sending Bannon to jail. The Queen of England hospitalized in what Buckingham Palace is calling preliminary investigations into the monarch's health. Queen Elizabeth II returning home from a London hospital, a royal source telling ABC News it's not COVID-related. The Washington National Cathedral holding a memorial service for General Colin Powell. The farewell November 5th as the world says goodbye to the first African-American chairman of the Joint Chiefs and Secretary of State. Mold, rats, and roaches. More than 150 Howard University students protesting what they say are poor housing conditions. The sit-in now a week in as students cry negligence by the university and unacceptable living conditions. But we begin with that fatal shooting on the set of Alec Baldwin's new movie set in New Mexico. Police say the actor and producer firing a prop gun, killing the director of photography and wounding the director. Kaylee Hartung is in Santa Fe with the latest for us.
A movie set turning into a real-life tragedy. An urgent investigation into how a prop gun that police say was fired by actor Alec Baldwin killed one crew member and injured another on the set of the Western-inspired film Rust. Baldwin, a producer and star of the movie, visibly distraught outside the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office after being questioned by authorities. This 911 call Thursday afternoon alerting authorities to a shooting on location at the Bonanza Creek Ranch in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Production shutting down immediately. Officials confirming 42-year-old cinematographer Helena Hutchins died after being airlifted to the hospital. Heralded as a rising star behind the camera, her most recent online post just days ago showing her excitement for being part of the production. Her friends speaking to GMA about how she was committed to delivering the best work she could, no matter the circumstance.
She was the kind of filmmaker who would stand in any uncomfortable place with her camera to get a shot that she thought would be the right shot.
Frances Fisher, one of the stars of Rust, tweeting that the director of the film, 48-year-old Joe Souza, has been released from the hospital. Authorities telling ABC News both were shot during filming on the set of Rust, and it appears that the scene being filmed involved the use of a prop firearm when it was discharged by 63-year-old Baldwin. Adding, detectives are investigating how the prop firearm was used and what type of projectile was discharged.
There is a system of checks and balances before any actor is touching a prop gun. And that usually includes a prop master bringing the prop over to set, then an AD checking the prop gun, and then it goes to the actor.
Rust, produced by Baldwin's production company, features Baldwin playing an infamous outlaw. The actor, known for his Emmy Award-winning role on 30 Rock.
Here's my counteroffer. $1.
And films like The Hunt for Red October.
I know Ramius, General.
Posted this photo from the set just hours before the shooting in costume, with the caption, "Back to in-person at the office, blimey, it's exhausting." It's been nearly 30 years since a similar accident killed Brandon Lee, son of famed martial artist Bruce Lee. In 1993, Lee was shot with a prop gun loaded with live ammunition instead of blanks while filming the movie The Crow.
There's going to be an investigation on how did this gun have the power to kill someone when it was supposed to be a prop gun.
And Kira, Helena Hutchins described herself as a restless dreamer and as an adrenaline junkie in her Instagram profile. The sheriff's department here has not filed any charges in relation to this shooting, and we haven't heard any comment from Alec Baldwin's representatives. But the film's production company is cooperating fully with this investigation. Kira.
I will follow every detail. Kaylee Hartung outside the sheriff's office there in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Thank you. Well, more now on the fight against COVID-19. The director of the CDC recommending Moderna and J&J booster shots for certain groups, as well as mixing and matching vaccines. This is happening as Pfizer releases new data about its vaccine, saying its shot is nearly 91% effective against symptomatic illness in children ages 5 to 11. Ariel Reshef has all the new details.
A green light for tens of millions of Americans to get a Moderna or Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 booster shot as soon as today.
Vote number 1 passes with 15 yeses and 0 nos.
CDC Director Rochelle Walensky signing off on unanimous recommendations from the CDC Advisory Panel, opening up Moderna boosters 6 months after the initial 2 doses to those 65 and older, as well as those 18 and older at high risk due to underlying health conditions or where they live or work.
Vote number 2 passes with 15 yeses and 0 nos.
The CDC recommending a J&J booster at least 2 months after the initial shot for those 18 and up. And in a highly anticipated move, the CDC director telling Americans who want to mix vaccines by boosting with a different brand than their original vaccine, it is safe to do so. The CDC did not weigh in on whether any specific booster combination was preferred, leaving it up to patients and their providers to decide which one to get.
All 3 vaccines will have boosters available, and what was interesting, of course, is that you can boost with a vaccine that was not what you originally got. And that will create important flexibility, and especially for those that got the J&J vaccine.
The move comes as the FDA weighs authorization of the Pfizer vaccine for kids ages 5 to 11. Millions of Americans awaiting news. Experts slated to meet Tuesday with a ruling expected days later, possibly clearing the path for the CDC to make recommendations on a pediatric dose by early November.
And our thanks to Ariel Reshef for that report. Well, earlier on Good Morning America, Cecilia Vega actually spoke with Dr. Rochelle Walensky on how soon you could start to see those booster shots and get one. Take a look.
We're talking about tens of millions of Americans now eligible for these boosters based on this new guidance. When can they get them?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Yes, they can get them right away. So let's step back and say what an important next step this was for boosters here in this country. We now have a booster plan for every one of our COVID-19 vaccines. So if we step back, what we've said now is that if you received a Pfizer or a Moderna vaccine and you're more than 6 months out of your second shot, you're eligible for a booster if you're over the age of 65, or if you're over the age of 18 and you live in a long-term care facility, you have an underlying medical condition, or you're at high risk of disease by virtue of where you live or work. Now, if you received a Johnson & Johnson vaccine and you're one of the 15 million people who did, then we have a booster plan for you too. And what that plan says is if you're more than 2 months out of your Johnson & Johnson shot, you're eligible for a booster regardless of your age. And finally, we had some discussion and important recommendations about what we call mix and match.
This mix and match is such big news, and a lot of people have a lot of questions about it. So I want to ask you, how should individuals decide if they want to mix and match which combinations to use?
You know, we reviewed a lot of evidence. The CDC and the FDA reviewed a lot of evidence. And for the vast majority of people who likely did very well with their original vaccine that they got, it would be just fine for them to go ahead and get that original vaccine again. But there may be people who have a preference for whatever reason to get something else. We would encourage them to discuss it with their physician or pharmacist, to come to the CDC website. And that option is there too. And then finally, if the vaccine you originally got is not available to you for whatever reason, the pharmacy you're visiting doesn't have it that day, it is just fine to get a different one as well.
So bottom line, if you got J&J as your original vaccine, should you look towards getting Pfizer and Moderna for your booster?
So the FDA and the CDC reviewed really important data, and what they saw from the NIH was data that demonstrated that if you got J&J followed by a Moderna or Pfizer, you got a really robust antibody response. But we saw some data also from J&J that demonstrated that J&J folks who got boosted with J&J had a really good clinical response as well. So really this is about personal preference and talking to your physician about what's best for you.
I want to get you quickly, before we let you go, about children younger than 5. When should parents expect it as it relates to vaccines for them? And you expect a vote next week to authorize vaccines for children 5 to 11. Should parents start making appointments now?
So we are awaiting for the FDA regulatory process. They'll meet next week, and the CDC will actually meet the following week, the first week in November, to make a discussion and decision after we see the data on the 5 to 11-year-olds. And we are actively working with pediatricians' offices to make sure that we are ready to go should that regulatory approval and the CDC recommendations come forward. In terms of children who are less than 5, we're probably looking into early 2022.
And our thanks again to Cecilia and Dr. Walensky for that interview this morning. Well, the manhunt is over. After searching for weeks, authorities say that those skeletal remains found in Florida in that nature reserve do indeed belong to Brian Laundrie. The FBI saying dental records confirm the identification of the 23-year-old who disappeared last month, just days after his girlfriend, Gabby Petito, was reported missing. ABC News' Trevor Ault is there.
The month-long manhunt for Gabby Petito's boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, ending where it began. The FBI using dental records to confirm the remains found Wednesday in Florida's Carlton Nature Reserve are his. Laundrie's parents still not speaking publicly, but their attorney telling ABC News they knew this was a likely possibility. Chris and Roberta Laundrie told authorities Brian had gone to the nature reserve the night he disappeared, days after Gabby was reported missing.
If he left the house without a wallet and without a cell phone, it's a big indicator of suicide.
And Wednesday, the couple leading investigators along a path Brian frequented where his skeletal remains were found near his backpack and a notebook in an area previously underwater. As the medical examiner now works to determine the cause of death, investigators are still combing through the swamp looking for more evidence.
These are very, very difficult conditions. These areas are huge and they're covered by water.
Brian Laundrie is still the only named person of interest in Gabby Petito's murder. From the beginning, he and his parents have refused to speak with authorities or the public about what happened to Gabby Petito. But when speaking to ABC, their attorneys seemed to indicate the family knew something tragic had already happened before Gabby had been found murdered, the night Brian disappeared.
The Laundrie family's attorney said Brian was very upset the night he left the house and that he was grieving, even though at that time the search for Gabby was still in its early stages. And now it seems perhaps the only answers as to what happened to Gabby Petito may have been forever lost in the waters of this swamp. Kira?
Trevor Ault, thank you so much. Well, coming up, why do we spend less money on our child care versus any other country? More on the child care job crisis we face and what the White House wants to do about it when we return. Welcome back to ABC News Live. I'm Kira Phillips. Well, our children are our future, and taking care of them should be our #1 priority. But child care providers are walking away from the job, and the pay just isn't enough. The average child care worker here in the U.S. earns less than $13 an hour and rarely receives benefits. Here's what President Biden has to say about it.
That monthly tax cut for parents is going to end in just a couple months. It's going to impact families of 61 million kids right at the holidays when the winter heating costs are going up. When we need to keep the taxes for families going down. The bottom line is this. When you give working families a break, we're not just raising their quality of life, we're positioning our country to compete in the future.
Ashley Williams from the Center for the Study of Child Care Employment joins us now. Ashley, appreciate you being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. Good morning.
So as we pointed out, the difference between how much the U.S. government contributes to toddlers' child care compared to many other nations is staggering. I mean, the U.S. government is spending $500 versus a country like Norway that spends almost $30,000 per child on care for children 2 and under annually. So where are our priorities, and how do we change this?
Yes, that's a huge factor that we're seeing, the separation between our early care and education system, where our families with children 0 to 3 are not getting lots of support because that public funding and the cost that we're paying to cover that childcare is not really meeting the same mark as we're seeing internationally, as you're saying, and it's really driving some significant issues for compensation for our workforce, for educators who work with children in the 0 to 3 sector versus those who work with children 4 and 5.
So within Biden's infrastructure bill, he explained that he wants to invest in child care. So if you were sitting in front of him there in the Oval, how would you advise him?
I would say President Biden, respectfully, when we think about investing in childcare, that includes significant investments across the 0 to 5 spectrum. So when we think about how children develop and what their educators need, we're looking at 0 through 5, right? So what we're seeing right now in the Build Back Better plan is a separation, and that's not going to help our children and families, and it's definitely going to drive these wage disparities for the educators that work with them.
So what more can be done? Give a couple examples of what could be implemented to change just this drastic difference in pay.
Yes. Well, first we have to have this public investment. We have, you know, the Build Back Better plan and the federal investments that we have in front of us are unprecedented. And that's going to be critical for us to really actualize early care and education as a public good. And in order to do that, we need those dollars. And those dollars have to also be prioritized to address compensation for early educators. As you said, they're earning poverty level wages. Being an early educator should not be a route to poverty for those who work with our youngest learners. So we have to start with ensuring that our investments in the system are sustainable funds that are going directly into our programs, and also ensuring that there are increased wages, benefits, and supports for our educators.
Agreed. And how has the hybrid work from home model, you think, changed the child care situation for families? Has it been helpful?
You know, it has been helpful for some and not for others. I mean, when we think about families who were, you know, deemed essential workers and going in and not having access to childcare, it really created some issues, and this definitely created issues for women in the workforce. And so this model of this hybrid thing that we're seeing, it works for some, but not all. And the thing that we have to see is we have to see these investments going into programs to ensure that they can stay open, that childcare is available for families so that they can show up and participate in our economy.
Finally, as we mentioned, you know, a lot of child care workers in the U.S. are just simply walking away from their jobs now because they say they aren't making enough money. So is there anything that can be done right now in this moment when that's happening?
Right. We have to look at how we leverage our federal funds to ensure that we can also think about recruitment and retention bonuses to attract folks to these jobs to work in early child care education, as well as making sure that we're paying folks and providing the health care and benefits. As you said, lots of folks aren't even having health benefits when we're in the midst of a pandemic and putting their livelihood and well-being on the line each day. So we have to start with compensation and ensuring that our educators themselves have the protections that they need and are able to put food on their own tables.
Appreciate your advocacy, Ashley. Ashley Williams, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, meet the dad who's not letting the bus driver shortage stop him from taking his kids to school in style. We'll have more and hear from him right after the break. And welcome back. It is time for Feel Good Friday, where we bring you a little good news as we, this time, drive into the weekend. And at the wheel, one Ohio dad who says the school bus driver shortage in his town is not going to stop him from taking his kids to school in style. After Sean Rogers' kids missed class for about a week because the bus driver just didn't show up, he decided to roll out the red carpet and the limo. chauffeur Sean, joining me now live to tell us how this all came about. Good to see you, Sean.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
All right. All right. So how did you get this idea? Give us the scoop.
Well, my kids, of course, everybody know my kids missed school. They missed about a week of school. And I decided to, take advantage and start taking them to school. And I couldn't take them in my car because they had other kids at their bus stop that was missing school as well. So I decided to, take the next step up and pull the limo out. And as I pulled the limo out, I went to social media, and a lot of parents was saying that their kids was missing school as well. And I just took another step and I made a post on Facebook saying that, if your kids miss school and you need some transportation, you need help to get them to school, then, contact me or whatever. And it just went from there.
Now, is this a family business?
It's not a family business. No, it's just something that we do out the kindness of our heart.
Okay, so you figured out. How did you get the limo?
Well, my dad, he just loved buying all types of toys and everything. So when he bought toys, he just let them sit in the driveway. So I was like, man, listen, we ain't finna sit here and let this limo go to waste. So I decided to grab the limo and just start rolling out the red carpet and taking kids to school.
I love it. Okay, I definitely think you have a new business here, for sure. Okay, right. So you've got to tell me, how did all the kids react? Your kids, other kids, tell me what they said. I mean, did you pump up the jams? Did you have, 7-Up and champagne glasses? Tell us how it all went down.
Well, my kids, they know how I am, so they're used to me doing something like this. But I can say that the other kids that I normally take to school on a daily now, when I first pulled up to, their houses or whatever, they was amazed. Like, I'm talking about their faces was shocked. They couldn't even believe it because, they knew they was going to school, but they didn't know that they was going to limo. Their parents never told them. They just told them, like, hey, well, you finna start going back to school. And as I pulled up, they came out, their face was just lit up. And it just brightened up my heart.
And do you turn up the music real loud to get them pumped up for school?
Always. So they have certain radio stations that they want to listen to. You got Pandora, you got iHeartRadio. Sometimes you got the radio local here in Columbus, Ohio. And whatever they want to listen to, they listen to it. So I just blast the music, and it just gets them pumped up. So when they step out the limousine and get ready to go to school, they're full of energy, and it's just exciting to see.
So how many kids have you now taken to school, and how long are you going to do this?
Well, as it keeps going up, day by day it keeps going up. I'm getting messages after messages after messages that their kids' buses is still not showing up. Kids' buses have stopped showing up. So right now I'm probably taking about between 50 to 55 kids as of today to school. And it's just getting ridiculous. So I did make a statement saying that we have a charter bus, and I will pull out the charter bus if it gets real crazy. Right now our charter bus is in the shop getting fixed as we speak. So if it gets way beyond to where the limo is not enough, then I'm definitely going to pull a charter bus out. But I'm gonna keep doing this until the city of Columbus makes something happen. And if they still do make something happen, I'm gonna still be there for them kids because, from what my understanding, they don't even want to ride a school bus no more. They want the limousine.
All right. So final question: what are you going to do when the buses are running again, and the community is able to solve this problem, and the kids say, "Dad or Mr. Rogers, we don't want to go on the school bus. We want the limo."
Well, if that come about and everything gets resolved, if they still want me to come around, Sean is going to come around. Sip love the kids, so Sean is definitely going to be there. If they don't want to ride the school bus, then trust and believe, I'll be parked outside their house, and I'll tell them, just like I do every day, I'll tell them, hey, I'm outside. You ready to go? Let's go to school. We're going to turn up that music, and we're going to get to school, and we're going to learn something.
I love you, Sean. Thank you so much, Sean, for joining us. You made our Friday.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
You bet. And you can find more feel-good stories at goodmorningamerica.com. Well, that does it for us this hour. I'm Kira Phillips. Thanks so much for joining us on this Friday. ABC News Live is here for you all day, of course, with the latest news, context, and analysis. Every Friday, Feel Good Friday as well. We'll be back here at 3 p.m. Eastern, so stay safe and have a great rest of your Friday.
It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.